They say every neighborhood has that one place. The house people avoid. The building no one wants to talk about. When I moved into my new apartment, I discovered ours, a 3-story abandoned structure at the end of the street. My neighbor only said one thing about it: don't go inside after dark. I should have listened, because the night I stepped through its doors, I realized it had been waiting for me all along. I've always been fascinated with abandoned buildings. Maybe it was childhood curiosity, or maybe just a love for things that felt forgotten. Every town has at least one, the kind of place people whisper about but never dare to enter. When I moved into this new neighborhood, I noticed one such building at the end of a cracked road. It was a 3-story brick structure, its windows boarded up, paint peeling, like it had been left to rot decades ago. My neighbor casually mentioned it once, saying, "No one goes in there after dark." I laughed it off, but the way he said it stayed with me. I could see the place from my window every night, staring back at me like a dare. Eventually, I decided to take that dare. The building wasn't far. I waited until late evening to head out. Flashlight in one pocket, camera in the other. I told myself this was just another exploration, something I'd done a dozen times before. But the closer I got, the quieter the world became. The sound of crickets stopped. Even the wind seemed to pause. The front gate was half broken, hanging crooked. I pushed it aside and stepped in. The grass was overgrown, reaching almost to my knees, and the air smelled of damp wood and rust. When I finally reached the door, I noticed it was already ajar, as if it had been waiting for me. Inside, the air was colder than outside, though no windows were open. My flashlight beam cut through layers of dust and cobwebs. The first thing I noticed was the silence. It wasn't just quiet, it was dead. No sound of insects, no traffic from the road outside, just me, my breathing, and the crunch of debris under my shoes. The walls were lined with faded wallpaper that peeled away in long strips, revealing rotten wood beneath. A staircase loomed ahead, spiraling upward into the dark. I remember thinking, this place feels heavier than it should, like it wasn't empty at all. I decided to start on the ground floor. The first room I entered had old furniture covered in white sheets. At least they were once white. Now they were stained yellow and gray. A broken piano sat in the corner, one key missing. When I brushed my hand across it, a low note played by itself, echoing too loudly for the silence. My heart jumped. I convinced myself it was just the wood settling, but I knew better. Then, on the far side of the room, I noticed something I hadn't expected: a pair of shoes. Not old, dusty shoes like the rest of the house. These looked new, clean, almost polished, just sitting there, like someone had left them for me. I don't know why I did it, but I stepped closer. They weren't my size. They looked small, like they belonged to a child. But something about them pulled at me. Against my better judgment, I reached down and touched one. The moment my fingers brushed the leather, I felt the floor beneath me shift. Not shake, not creak, it shifted. My vision blurred for a split second, and suddenly the room didn't look the same anymore. The furniture was gone, the wallpaper was blackened, as if it had burned, and the air smelled of smoke and iron. I staggered back, and when I lifted my flashlight, the shoes were gone. Panic set in. I rushed back to the hallway, but it wasn't the same hallway anymore. The door I had entered from wasn't there. Instead, the walls stretched longer, darker. The staircase ahead seemed taller, endless. My chest tightened as I realized this wasn't just an abandoned building anymore. Somehow, I had stepped into something else, something I wasn't supposed to see. My flashlight flickered, and in that brief flicker, I saw movement at the top of the stairs, a small silhouette, a child, maybe, standing perfectly still, facing me. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. The figure didn't move. I blinked, and it was gone. My brain screamed at me to leave, but there was no way back. So I forced myself forward, up the stairs. Every step groaned under my weight, the wood splintering. I kept the flashlight fixed ahead, terrified of looking behind me. When I reached the landing, I heard it. A whisper, low but clear. My name, not shouted, not mumbled, whispered, like someone was standing just inches from my ear. I spun around. No one. There were 3 doors upstairs. The first opened into a room lined with shelves. Books covered the floor, their pages torn out, scattered like leaves. But one book sat upright on the shelf, untouched. I pulled it free, brushing dust off the cover. No title, just leather binding. I opened it and froze. Every page had the same sentence written over and over again. "Don't take the shoes." My blood ran cold. I dropped the book and it hit the floor with a sound far louder than it should have been. A loud thud that shook the whole room. Suddenly, the second door slammed shut on its own. I jumped. My flashlight flickered again, and in that momentary darkness, I felt something brush past me. Not air, not a draft, something solid. I bolted for the stairs, but the staircase was gone. In its place was another hallway, longer, stretching endlessly. Doors lined both sides, each slightly open, like they were waiting for me. My breathing was ragged now, panic clawing at me. And then I heard it again. My name. Only this time, it came from inside one of the rooms. I don't know why I chose the third door, but I did. Inside was a small bedroom. The bed was neatly made, as if someone still lived there. A small doll sat on the pillow, its porcelain face cracked. I swear its eyes followed me as I stepped closer. On the wall above the bed were dozens of photographs, all pinned up in a messy collage. My heart stopped when I looked closer. They weren't random photos. They were of me, walking to the store, unlocking my apartment door, sleeping. Hundreds of them, and all dated from the last 2 weeks. That's when I realized I wasn't exploring this place. I was being lured. Whoever or whatever was in this house already knew me, had been watching me. My knees went weak, and I backed away, nearly tripping over the doll. The moment my foot brushed it, the entire room shuddered, like the walls themselves were alive. I bolted out, not caring which way I went, just desperate to get away. The hallway twisted and bent, like it was shifting around me, closing in. My flashlight died. Darkness swallowed me whole. In that pitch black, I heard footsteps. Not mine. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. I pressed myself against the wall, holding my breath. A voice whispered again, this time clearer. "Leave, before it's too late." For a moment I thought it was warning me. Then I realized it wasn't a warning, it was a command. My chest tightened as the footsteps stopped right in front of me. A hand, cold, skeletal, brushed across my arm. I couldn't hold back anymore. I screamed, and in that instant, everything snapped back. I was standing at the front of the building again. The gate creaked behind me, swinging in the wind. My flashlight was still in my hand, still working. I stumbled out, gasping, drenched in sweat. The world outside was normal again. Cars passed by, crickets chirped. The air smelled like fresh rain. I never looked back at that building. But when I got home, I noticed something that still keeps me awake at night. Sitting just outside my apartment door was that same pair of shoes. Clean, polished, waiting.